pause for a moment. Not because something urgent is happening, but because you've been moving for too long without stopping to feel where you are. This moment is quiet on purpose. Your life hasn't been loud lately, but it has been meaningful. Even if it didn't look like progress from the outside, something important has been happening inside you. You've been shedding old reactions, old expectations, old versions of yourself that were built just to survive. And survival is no longer your goal. There was a time when you needed noise to feel alive, validation to feel secure, constant movement to avoid uncomfortable thoughts. That time taught you strength, but it also taught you exhaustion. Now, something different is forming. You're starting to notice how calm feels safer than chaos, how clarity feels better than excitement, how peace feels richer than approval. This isn't boredom, this is alignment. You may feel like life has slowed down, but what actually slowed was the unnecessary pressure. You're no longer chasing moments to prove your worth. You're choosing moments that respect it. That change didn't happen overnight. It came from disappointments that forced you to think, from silence that made you listen, from situations where you realized not everything deserves your energy. And that realization changed how you show up. You don't react immediately anymore. You don't explain yourself to everyone. You don't rush decisions just to escape discomfort. You pause. You observe. You choose. That is growth. Some people might think you've changed. They're right. But what they don't see is that you didn't become colder. You became clearer. You didn't lose emotion. You learned boundaries. You didn't give up. You recalibrated. There were moments you felt lost, but in reality, you were letting go of directions that no longer fit. Confusion was part of the transition. So was doubt. So was distance. Distance from people who only understood the old you. Distance from habits that kept you busy but empty. Distance from goals that looked good but felt wrong. That distance wasn't loneliness. It was space. And in that space, you started hearing yourself again. Not the voice shaped by fear, not the voice shaped by pressure, but the steady voice underneath all of that. The one that knows when something is off. The one that recognizes peace immediately. The one that doesn't need approval to feel real. You're trusting that voice more now. And because of that, life feels less dramatic, but more honest. You're not waiting for everything to make sense. You're allowing clarity to arrive step by step. You're no longer demanding answers from the future. You're focusing on integrity in the present. That shift changes everything. It changes how opportunities appear. It changes who stays. It changes what no longer needs to. You're not afraid of quiet anymore. You're not afraid of being misunderstood. You're not afraid of walking alone for a while. Because you finally understand something simple and powerful. You don't need to rush your becoming. You are allowed to grow slowly. You are allowed to change your mind. You are allowed to protect your peace. Life doesn't reward urgency. It responds to alignment. And right now, you are more aligned than you realize. Not because everything is perfect, but because you are honest with yourself. That honesty will guide your next steps. It will shape better decisions. It will attract situations that feel right instead of heavy. From here, things won't feel forced. They'll feel intentional. And that's how you know you're moving in the right direction. Take a breath. You're not late. You're not behind.
You're not missing anything. You're exactly where you need to be to move forward calmly, clearly, and confidently. This moment doesn't need urgency. It only needs awareness, and you already have that.
As this awareness settles in, you begin to notice something else. Your reactions are changing before your circumstances do. Things that once triggered you now only register as information, not because you stopped caring, but because you stopped attaching your worth to outcomes. This is an important shift. You're learning that peace doesn't come from control. It comes from understanding where your responsibility ends. You can show up honestly. You can give your best effort, but you don't need to carry everything beyond that. And this realization feels freeing. You're no longer replaying conversations in your head, no longer trying to rewrite moments that already passed, no longer blaming yourself for things you couldn't have known then. You're allowing the past to stay where it belongs. That doesn't mean forgetting it. It means learning from it without living inside it. This creates emotional space, and in that space, your intuition becomes clearer. You start sensing when to speak and when silence protects you, when to lean in and when to step back. These instincts feel natural now, not forced, not rehearsed. They come from self-trust. You may notice that some doors are opening slowly, not all at once, not dramatically, but steadily. Opportunities that don't demand urgency, connections that don't drain you, situations that feel mutual instead of one-sided. This is intentional. Life is meeting you at the pace you can sustain. You're not being rushed into lessons anymore. You're being invited into alignment. And alignment requires patience. You might still feel moments of uncertainty. That's normal. Growth doesn't remove questions. It changes how you relate to them. Instead of panic, there's curiosity. Instead of fear, there's evaluation. You're not asking, what if this goes wrong? You're asking, does this feel honest to me? That question becomes your compass. It doesn't guarantee comfort, but it protects your integrity, and integrity builds confidence. Quiet confidence, the kind that doesn't need validation, the kind that doesn't compete, the kind that remains steady even when things are unclear. This is what you're developing now. Not speed, not certainty, stability. And this stability is preparing you for the next phase of your journey. With this stability in place, everything begins to feel clearer. Not because life suddenly becomes predictable, but because you trust yourself inside it. You stop scanning the future for reassurance. You stop looking backward for explanations. You're fully present now, and presence changes how life responds to you. You make decisions with less noise. You move forward without dragging old doubts behind you. You allow things to unfold without trying to control the pace. That doesn't make you passive. It makes you intentional. You recognize when effort is required and when patience is the wiser choice. You no longer confuse stillness with stagnation. You understand that rest can be productive when it protects clarity. This understanding shapes your confidence. You don't need everything to make sense at once. You only need alignment in the moment you're standing in, and you have that now. The version of you that once questioned every step has learned something valuable. You don't need certainty to move forward.
You need honesty. Honesty with your limits. Honesty with your desires. Honesty with what feels right and what doesn't. That honesty simplifies your path. You let go of unnecessary expectations. You release timelines that never belong to you. You stop measuring your progress against someone else's. Comparison loses its power when self-trust becomes stronger. From here, growth will feel quieter but deeper. You won't announce every step. You won't seek approval for every decision. You'll simply live in a way that feels consistent with who you are. And that consistency becomes your foundation. People may notice the change. They may describe it as calm, confidence, or clarity. What they're really seeing is alignment. You are no longer resisting where you are or rushing toward where you're not. You are moving with intention. And intention creates momentum without pressure. This is how sustainable growth begins. Not with intensity, not with urgency, but with self-respect. Take a breath. You don't need to do more today. You don't need to become someone else. You only need to continue honoring what you already know. That knowledge will guide you through whatever comes next. Quietly, steadily, reliably. This chapter is complete, and you're ready for the next one, not because everything is solved, because you are grounded.